Chapter 20 of Deliver Me from Eva by Paul Bailey. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. Chapter 20. There were mountainous problems for me to think through, and yet, in my peculiar mental state, there was little I cared to do about them. After all the happenings of the past 24 hours, by all the rules of logic, I should have wasted no time in seeking the outside world for help and counsel. Murders of a most barbaric and revolting kind had been committed within my knowledge and before my eyes. Like an ox in a miasmic swamp, I mired deeper with every struggle, and only help beyond my own strength and initiative could possibly save me. Yet I begged no help, and what feeble urge I felt toward law and human ethics transmitted itself to a single attempt at telephoning. Who I intended to call, I had not the remotest idea. When the line showed itself as dead, I sighed with relief and replaced the telephone on its hook. Before all, and above all, I wanted first to talk to Eva. I thumped the polished wood of the desk Eva had given me. I teetered uneasily in my chair and gazed absently at the domed ceiling of my study. The ethical concepts of my nature, as interpreted in normal human behavior, seemed dulled by the impact of forces beyond control. If it were dementia, it seems odd that my mind was still crystal clear as to every detail of past events. The interpretive functions of my intellect were the parts which seemed to have gone awry. As I see it now, the norm of my conscious thought followed a pattern of oblique distortion, which seemed in that hour perfectly lucid and logical. I felt the urge not to brush away the evils and oddities of my existence, but to perversely examine them one by one. I knew they were interesting, and I knew that I would write of them. But in this moment it was Eva I wanted, the woman I had married, my wife and loved one. I could stand it no longer. Like a man possessed, I sprang from my chair and rushed back to her chamber. She was still asleep, scarcely moved from the childish curled-up hug in which I had left her. "Eva," I called. My tender efforts at shaking her became more vigorous when she failed to respond to my entreaties. "Eva!" Wispy smiles of contentment lighted her face. She sighed and hugged at her pillow, but no amount of coaxing and shaking could stir her to conscious recognition. If she were drugged, there was nothing I could do but wait until the potion had spent itself. Chagrined and deeply worried, I walked back to my study. Margot was there, with a heavy-laden breakfast cart. "I tried again to waken her," I said. "The time is not yet," Margot cautioned. She handed me a napkin, spread a cloth atop my desk, and commenced setting out plates and silver for two. "'Tis well, too. It gives you a chance to decide, free of influence or duress." I peeked under the silver platter cover and sniffed delightedly at the crisp ham and yellow-eyed eggs. Margot poured my coffee, laid out the marmalade, and seated herself opposite. I glanced with new interest at the sorrow-marked, intelligent face of Ava's mother. "I'm worrying a lot about our awful secrets," I confessed. Unperturbed, she heaped my plate with food and offered me sugar for my coffee. I took 2 cubes and watched her critically. "And you're anxious," she casually replied, "to confess all to Eva and ask her advice?" "Very definitely." Margot's big gray eyes stared hungrily at me. "You feel no urge to expose all the dark happenings of days past?" I weighed the thought. "Yes and no," I said finally. "I guess my urges are all mixed up. My thinking's all mixed up, too. The only really urgent thing I feel is to talk to Eva, to argue these grave problems with her." "An encouraging sign," Margot declared. "Now eat, Mark. I know you're hungry and desperately tired." And that indeed was true. Margot ate sparingly, as though in deepest thought. I was in deep thought, too, though for 5 minutes I wolfed my breakfast, washing it down with great draughts of the hot coffee with which Margot kept me generously supplied. "Why doesn't Eva talk to me?" I suddenly demanded. "Did you drug her?" "She doesn't know you exist." I dropped my fork and stared aghast. "Now isn't that a hell of a note?" I stormed. "You mean she doesn't know I married her?" "She is conscious of nothing earthly. Her mind lives and acts only in the plane of the infinite. Her body, being of the earth and bound to the earth, is the only anchor that holds her. Eva is an extraordinary product of an amazing experiment. The only thing left of it, in fact. And it's about time this insufferable idiocy ceased. She's my wife, and God be my witness, there'll be no more of it. Why does she sleep all day? Answer me that. Because the body wearies. She takes no food. Her mind is conscious of no hunger. But her body is. The body eventually conquers and brings her back. That is what we mean by a cycle. I don't like it. It's possible by manipulation to continue it longer, and that was the doctor's intention. Being a co-discoverer of these things, I could continue the experiment myself, but for your sake I shan't. At last, I grumbled, someone considers me. We must consider you, Mark. In you is the future of everything for which the cradle of light was conceived. In you is either its salvation or its destruction. May wisdom guide your acts through these days. We finished our breakfast in moody silence. Margot disdained my proffered cigarette. As though awaiting some crucial decision on my part, she made no move to leave. "And now you want me to carry the ball," I finally suggested. She gravely nodded. "I gave you my sentiments a moment ago. First, I'm going to rescue my bride, and if it's still possible, to shake her out of her trance, and boot out her psychic companions long enough for a little straight earth talk. Then we'll decide from that point on. And you'll do one of three things," Margot predicted. "What are they, may I ask?" I comfortably leaned back and blew my breakfast smoke ceilingward. "Maybe I'll do all three of them." "Your legal instinct could force you to rush out for help. That act would be most regrettable. It would cast the Craner hypothesis to public ridicule, and all of us into endless disgrace and court exposure. You'd lose Ava completely and finally." "I'll never lose her," I boasted. "She'll weather the storm with me. I know Ava." Margot stared solemnly at me. "You don't know Ava," she said. "Believe me, you don't." "Your words are frightening to a bridegroom." "Well, if you're entertaining notions of a successful transplant of Ava Craner to another way of life, you do well to start some sober thinking. I'm Ava's mother. My children were born and trained to their destiny. Ava herself will be the first to snatch away the illusion you're chasing." "You make it sound horrific," I said, in an effort to appear indifferent. "You've two other courses of action." "And what are they?" "You'll try to deliver yourself from Ava by killing her." Margot said it calmly and without tremor of emotion. "As her mother and the source of her affliction, you'll also kill me, and eventually you'll turn to self-destruction." "Why so certain I'll be a suicide?" "Because you're deeply in the web, Mark Allard. You love Ava, with a passion that will drive you to madness when she is gone. 2, you have only the vaguest of desire to return to what you once thought the normal way of life. How often do you now think of your former business, or your former friends and associates?" "Seldom," I honestly confessed. "But maybe you've employed unfair physical and mental influence. Perhaps I'm insane." "To kill would be the perfectly normal expression of a man in your predicament. You're jealous of Ava because she's in a world apart from you now, and as time goes on, and you further refuse to enter it with her, the breach will widen. As certain as you live, you'll kill. I sense you're very near it at the moment." "Then why did you offer me the gun?" The fire in my cigarette had died. I cast the thing to my plate. "Because I wanted you to have complete and free agency in the matter. My only coercion was to make certain you saw Ava before circumstance inevitably forced you to a decision. You must act as you think best from this moment on." "But I still have one other course of action," I nervously suggested. "You said yourself that there were 3. Margot arose and commenced moving the dishes back to the serving cart. "The other alternative," she said, pausing in her work, "is to conform, accept the situation, become one of us. Remember, it was Margot, the serving maid, who conceived the Craner therapy. I brought it to fruition through the doctor and my children. You, with Ava's help, can make it a positive, living thing." How can you consider a thing as living when most of its adepts are dead, destroyed by the thing they created? The thing you've meddled with is death. I love Ava, as you say, but I want none of this dark business. The path of every major discovery is strewn with casualties. That should not deter us. I've given 2 of my children as martyrs to a new science. I suffered humiliation when the doctor usurped my place and lost the true perspective of his great calling. But for this circumstance, the deaths might never have occurred. But you, Mark Allard, now stand in the doctor's place. Willingly and happily will I confer a greatness upon you that eventually must resound to the uttermost parts of the earth. The secrets, all of them, will be made known to you. You will inherit the doctor's lands and wealth. You will sire children that will become wonders among men. With trembling fingers I lit another cigarette and watched Ava's mother load the cart. The things she had told were boring in upon me. I dared not speak. While I mulled in thought, Margot prepared her cart and started with it across the room. Midway she paused and turned to me. "I suggest you think seriously before you act," she said. "In your hand and mind is the destiny for all of us." "When can I see Ava?" I demanded. "Only when her cycle is ended, Mark." "Tonight?" "Perhaps." "I'll see you later, then," I said abruptly. "Do not disturb me until evening." "I had no intentions of doing so," she answered tartly, and pushed the cart to the door. "Good day, Mark," she said, pausing to smile. "And again I ask that wisdom may bless you." After she was gone, I paced the floor for half an hour. Before I'd finished my mental tussle, the urge to write had come upon me. I set myself at the desk with pencil and paper, trying to diagram the weird sequence of events throughout the days past. Soon my story was taking shape, and I scribbled steadily until fatigue and drowsiness overcame me. When I awoke, the frightening darkness was once more upon me. I lay with my head upon my desk, amid the finished sheets of my work. My muscles were cramped and aching from the bended strain of my day's slumber, and my reaction was one of startled fear. I roused myself, switched on the lights, and hurried across the music room to Ava's quarters. Her chamber was lighted. The bed was empty. Ava was gone. End of chapter 20.